this is actually a rough draft. And he goes, you want me to make it better? And I go, no, I like it exactly the way
It's
it is,
perfect.
you know?
Yeah.
And so when I send it off to the hoodie making company, they always want to make the artwork better. So
Hmm.
they turn it into Hallmark pandas. You know, you can just imagine really super saccharine sweet pandas, and we are rock and roll pandas.
That's right.
Well, it's awesome. I'll be glad to wear it around Kentucky for sure.
So Julia, it's this will be confusing. Julia, do you go by Julia? I think
Yeah,
you do. Yeah,
yeah,
so does Julia. Hmm.
yeah. I don't
But
have nicknames, Julia. I don't know if you have nicknames as
My
well.
only my sister calls me Jewel and my husband calls me Jules sometimes.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I go by Julia. I also don't believe that the name Julie is even the same name.
No.
Like
Yeah.
like when people call me Julie, I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. And people call me Julie a lot, like on
Yeah.
emails especially, and I'm always
Yeah.
like,
I really don't like it. Like that's a fine name, but it's not my name.
yeah.
right, yeah. So,
So we could call
anyway,
her guest Julia.
yes, guess Julia. So, guess Julia, um, you are our first mother-daughter
Oh, cool.
interview uh,
Person.
situation. Yes.
Yeah.
So we talked to your mom, Lisa Estrada,
Hmm.
uh, probably about a year ago,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe a little more.
Yeah. And she was in transition to her new thing.
Mhm.
Yes. And
Yeah,
now,
she came away like buzzing from that interview.
uh,
So many new thoughts.
and so now here we are talking to you. And I thought before we get to the introduction, because it's like uh, our habit not to introduce people right away,
Hmm.
I thought we could talk about that halftime show.
Yeah, totally.
So I am Puerto Rican. I
Mhm.
am
Wait
100%.
a minute. Is this Bad Bunny?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I was like, oh, it's the Super Bowl. I'm gonna go to bed early. So I did not see anything.
Oh, you didn't
You
see it.
haven't seen it
Okay.
yet.
No.
Okay.
Well, it's on YouTube. It's a cultural statement. So
Cool.
it's definitely worth seeing.
Hmm.
So I am 100% Puerto Rican. It's hard for me to be any more Puerto Rican than I am. Uh, and so tell us about your heritage.
Yeah, so I'm 50% Mexican.
Yeah.
And yeah, watching the halftime show as any type of Latino person
Yeah.
was really cool. Not
Yes.
only seeing Latino culture and especially seeing where like Mexican and Puerto Rican culture intersect.
Yes.
Also, it was a call to like all Latinos of
Exactly.
America, especially
Yeah.
living in the US. So it was a
Right.
really powerful.
Now, could you understand his Spanish?
Not so well. It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's just like it's obviously the same language, but there's so much slang that gets used
Yes. Well,
in
part of it was slang, but
yeah.
I was with my cousins who
Hmm.
are also 100% Puerto Rican.
Hmm.
And the wife of the pair, she's actually my blood cousin.
Hmm.
She didn't learn English until an adult, so her Spanish is really strong.
Hmm.
And about halfway through the Bad Bunny presentation, she goes in Spanish, well, you can hardly understand a word he's saying. And that made me feel good because Puerto Rican Spanish is very guttural.
Hmm.
And whereas correct me, I think Mexican Spanish is kind of twangy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, also Mexican, it depends what part of Mexico
Yeah.
you're from. I always say that like Mexican Spanish is, and maybe all other Spanish is the same. It's always like in service of some sort of joke. Like it's very
Ah,
jovial. It's very kind
mm,
of like light. So it makes
yes.
sense that Puerto Rican and like some Dominican Spanish too feels a lot more guttural.
It is guttural. And then a very typical Puerto Rican, probably also Dominican habit, the DR habit is to eat the end of the words. So
Mhm.
if the word has three syllables, you say two. If it
Hmm.
has two syllables, you say one.
Yeah.
And if it's a one syllable word, you slide it into the other word.
Right.
And so he had the microphone right next to his mouth, and he was going buh 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 buh, and I was like, okay, what did he say there?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think he exaggerates his accent on purpose.
Hmm.
So I think that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was cool. It was also it's only this morning that I've seen the post about like I saw Pedro Pascal was
Yeah.
like just there, and then Cardi B was there.
Yes.
Um who else was
Well,
it? There were
Lady
like
Gaga.
Lady Gaga was there, Ricky Martinez was there. There were some iconic people performing, and then there were also just people who you could tell just wanted to be a part of it.
Yes, right, right. Yeah. So anyway, it
I have a
basically,
question
yeah,
though.
go ahead, Julia.
Did you see it as like, I didn't see this at all, so I have no idea if this even makes sense, but did you see it as sort of a message about the ice
Oh,
situation or the,
yes. Oh,
okay.
yes.
Mhm.
Although that wasn't heavy, I would
Mhm.
say, but it clearly was, uh, I think more specifically, it was reclaiming the US as a multicultural country,
Mhm.
as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to,
A monocultural
a
country.
monocultural country.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
And
cool.
yeah, go ahead, Julia.
I
Guess
I
Julia.
also it was such a celebration, which I think was in a way saying was a message to ICE and to the administration because there was a an alternative Super Bowl halftime show happening with Kid Rock. And I think it just goes to show that it's like Bad Bunny is like one of the biggest music stars of today. And so
Yes,
it's a good choice for a halftime show, but
right,
because he's Puerto Rican, because Spanish is his first language, it automatically became about like the NFL is this and like they're like it's un-American. But it's like literally Latinos are just doing what everybody else is doing and doing a good job at it. But because
right,
we're just inherently who we are, it becomes like a bigger political statement than just simply like a celebration and putting on a
right,
good show.
right. Yeah, well said, well said. So it was really, at least this is what I got from it. It was a celebration of family values, which
Hmm.
I thought was quite ironic,
Hmm.
obviously intended, but it's all about the a Spanish community, the Spanish grocery store, the elders playing dominoes. There was
Hmm.
actually a couple, a heterosexual couple that got married for real during
Hmm.
the performance. So it had a real, I think he was messaging that, we're just like anybody else, slightly different cultural traditions, but basically we're good.
Hmm.
And as I said already, I'm Puerto Rican. The son of my cousin, so he's my first cousin once removed, is the head of the Puerto Rican Arts Alliance in Chicago, which is
Oh
a
wow.
huge nonprofit group
Hmm.
in Chicago, and he is very proud, and I think he's doing a fantastic job promoting Puerto Rican culture, which is, and I'll say this, and you can respond, guess Julia, but then maybe we can move on. But I really take umbrage when people imply that groups like us, Puerto Ricans, and I have to say this, I think we're considered more mongrel than
Mm.
Mexicans. By mongrel, I mean not really a country,
Mm.
kind of, not really anything. I mean, no one can dispute the fact that Mexico is Mexico, right?
Mm.
But
Hmm.
Puerto Rico is, bleh,
Right? You're not a state.
we're
You're
not
not
we're not
a
kind of
country.
anything, right?
Yeah.
And I really take umbrage at people who will accuse us of not having a culture.
Mm.
And I don't know if you caught this, Julia, but when Ricky Martin See, I'm getting to process and vent now. But when Ricky Martin sang his very short song, it was a song about the Puerto Rican flag. And the
Hmm.
lyric, he says, I love something like, I love the flag of Puerto Rico, and I don't want to happen to you what happened to Hawaii. Those are the actual words he said.
Hmm.
And what happened to Hawaii? It got incorporated into the US and it lost its culture.
Yeah.
That's the implication of that statement.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is something, I mean, I think especially coming from New York, which I moved to New York when I was 17, and I lived for part of that time in the Heights, and the Puerto Rican culture up there, the Dominican culture too is very, very strong. And so you start, especially as a Latina, you start to really recognize how people are firmly rooted in the passion and of their culture and the specificity that exists there too.
Yes, yes.
And it's also interesting because then like how Puerto Rican culture mixed with New York culture, and there's
Oh
like
my God.
regions. There's people who were born on the island who moved. There's people who were born on the island who stayed. There's all these like within it, it's like this really interesting tapestry that's pretty unique to a Puerto Rican
Right, right.
experience.
Yeah. So let's talk about
Well,
you.
yeah.
So, Julia, how do you want to introduce yourself?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm a actor kind of first and foremost. And that's what I've been doing for much of my life is acting, especially within theater, and exploring TV and film as well. And then I have a consulting firm, so I consult with arts organizations.
And
So this
that's
is sort of,
Allo Impact?
yeah, Allo Impact, yeah.
Allo Impact, okay. And um,
Wait.
go ahead,
Aloe
you
as
go.
an, well, I just have some, now I have questions.
Good.
Aloe impact as an allopathic medicine or,
As in allophilia. So the
oh,
opposite of xenophobia.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
got
not
it.
familiar with that. Allophilia.
ALLO.
It,
Is allopathic medicine, is that also ALLO?
yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And it's from the same root. It means,
Yeah, a door opening behind
I
you.
know that's
yeah.
I have a little dog, a little pit bull who is
Oh, he wants to know what's
I
going on.
know.
Yeah, allopathic
Mhm. Sorry, go ahead.
means,
It's okay.
doesn't it
We're
mean
good.
like integrative? What is allo? What is the root al? I'm gonna look it up.
Good, yay. So
I thought
you're
it
still
means,
pursuing your acting.
Hmm.
different, other.
Hmm.
I think of
Okay,
it as
what
integrative.
does allo mean?
Different or other. So allophilia is a tendency to like those who are different or other.
Oh,
So it's the opposite of
oh.
xenophobia.
So
Yeah.
I'm an
Yeah.
allophiliac.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yay.
Okay, that was my first question. Then my next question is so it sounds like what is the name of the company again? Allo
Allo
Impact?
impact, yeah.
So it sounds like you support bridges between differences.
Yes, yeah, and it sort of started with I went back to school to study organizational psychology. I was working on Broadway and looking at things that were not going super well in terms of especially like management systems, leadership systems, and thinking about HR and going back to school for HR. And then I was introduced to organizational psychology and sort of the talking about almost like the philosophy of work, especially work in creative industries. So that's what I do is I love helping creative people and creative leaders, especially who are working in oftentimes unsustainable workplaces, um,
Yeah.
to create systems that support them.
Wow. So you're supporting those folks in the entertainment industry. It's a horrible industry. We should I should introduce you to Lisa Borodkin, who's this amazing entertainment lawyer who's also trying to make the situation better.
Yeah.
But in terms of your acting, do you do musical theater? Do you do what's your deal?
So I've come from the musical theater world where I studied musical theater in college at
Just
Texas.
up the road from here at Texas State University.
Oh yeah.
I'm in Bulverde. It's
Oh,
my
no
Texas
way.
home.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was in San Marcos, Texas, right between San Antonio and Austin. And it was my first time in Texas going to school there. But I loved it. It's like the hill country of Texas. There was a river running through our school. And I studied musical theater there and then moved to New York and started working regionally and then started working some more like around New York. And then my big break, as it were, was that I joined the tour of Hamilton in
Ooh,
2019. And it was right
cool.
before the pandemic. So I like learned all of my roles because my job was to cover four roles within the show,
So you
including
covered the women,
Did you do the Schuyler sisters?
the Schuyler sisters.
Oh,
Yeah,
Schuyler sisters. Yeah, yeah.
so I cover
Oh,
I covered all of them, all three, and then one woman in the ensemble as well. And so
wow.
that pre-pandemic, then we came back in 2021, and I did that up until I did that for like a year and a half, and then joined the Broadway company of Hamilton right after tour and did that for about 2 years as well.
Wow,
So
that song Helpless is hands down, I think, the best song in the whole musical.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's a hard song because you're
Yes.
riffing all over the place, and as Eliza, you're running like from one side of
It's
the
very physical.
stage.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
so how many touring companies did Hamilton have? Only
They
one, or
know at
it's
one
such a big
time.
show?
Yeah, at the height of it, it had three different companies. So that was
Wow.
actually, it became kind of my bread and butter for a minute there where I knew the show really, really well. And I was really hungry. Once I learned all my tracks, I was like, what else is there to learn? And they said, well, if you want to, like, we're looking for people to like fly out to different companies when we need coverage, especially as you can imagine in the time of COVID it was like week by week. Sometimes a lot of people would be out with COVID and it was the question of whether they'd be able to have the show or not. So I would come in, I actually ended up performing on two of the three national tours, but one of
Mm.
them I was on full time. The other, they would just fly me out occasionally.
That's
Okay,
so
that
cool.
sounds hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it though. Like it was I mean, the show's such a great show. And then what it was for me, the coolest thing was like there's 100 people literally working on each tour. And so you get to know so many different people who have now gone off to do many other cool things or continue to work on the show. And so it's like it starts to turn this thing that I went to school for, that I had this dream about being on Broadway, it turns it into the reality of there's people who do this every single day. And,
Yes.
and it is quite fun. It's hard work, but it's also, we have a lot of fun while doing it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
One of my best friends from college is and your mom knows her, is a doctor in New York City, Mary, and I won't say her last name because I don't think she wants to be social. But her significant other is a guy who's been a stagehand all his life. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he belongs to the union.
Hmm.
He's like my age, of a certain age, but he still gets work as a stagehand, and in a good year can make a six-figure income when when there's a lot of stuff going on. And it just fascinated me that there's this whole web of people associated with entertainment that you don't even think about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a massive industry and when especially when it comes to New York, because a person in his position, I mean, for us as actors, we're like, we gotta audition for the job. Sometimes you get the job and you think the show's gonna go to Broadway. It doesn't. Some like things happen. But for people who are tied to a theater, like there are just shows that come in and you work on them, and a lot of people are tied to the theater houses.
Mm-hmm.
And people are picking up work constantly. So it's this huge web, and a lot of us know each other. Like we have
Right.
Broadway softball during the summertime where all the shows on Broadway have softball teams. So you start to recognize the same people. And during the wintertime, we do bowling as well. So it's like every show has a bowling team, and it's like actors, stagehands, management, people in the management positions in general management. So it's a cool ecosystem.
So,
Wow.
what's your audition song or songs? Or, I mean, when you're doing a dramatic role, do you actually
Do you have a
have an
monologue?
audition monologue or something?
Well, so yes-ish. We have, I mean, and at this point, I've auditioned. I mean, multiple times a week, I'm submitting self-tapes and sometimes going in for things and for callbacks. Now I'm to the point, luckily, where I usually just get material sent to me, and so they'll
Mm,
say, "We want you to audition for this show, for this character in this show. They sing this song and they do these two scenes." So then that's what
right.
I submit for a self-tape. But I do occasionally, like last night, I filmed something. And up until I was getting ready to film, I still was not sure what I was going to sing. I was like, it's in the style of the show. But then I just looked through the recordings that I have for self-tapes and was able to find something that was a good fit. And that was a song called Love Me for What I Am, which is in a show called In Trousers, which is it's the lesser known show by William Finn that came before Falsettos. Um,
Ah,
Characters who were in the show from the show Falsettos.
yeah. I
Wow.
I love, I mean, I've always loved live entertainment. That's where I spend my money. I support the arts. And so I could go down this track for a very long time and I'm just going to pull myself back.
We
Well,
can go
except
there.
I've got a question, which is, uh, Julia, I mean, you say you're considering TV. Would you move to LA for a TV show? Or if you were signed onto a show, that's
I mean, I would move anywhere for anything, to be honest with you. Like that's the life of being an actor is being able to sort of uproot a little bit and be able to move where the work is. But I will say, so I relocated my home base to Louisville, Kentucky about 3 years ago, and it wasn't because of TV and film, but I was pleasantly surprised that right as I moved here was this sort of blossoming of TV and film. So it's sort of the nature of the industry that it used to be that you would have to move to LA to do TV and film, move to New York to do theater. Now that so many things are virtual, you can kind of be anywhere. So I've been having a really lovely time putting down roots in Kentucky, but also being able to travel wherever the work is.
that's
Very
really
cool.
cool.
Very cool. So so let's connect to organizational psychology
Yeah.
and consulting. So my background is in the dark arts,
Mhm.
which aren't dark at all, intelligence.
Mhm.
And Julia, how would you describe your professional?
Well, it's funny. I wouldn't describe your background that way. So now I'm trying to figure out how I wouldn't describe mine.
I'm just trying to be funny, you know.
No, no, yeah. How would you describe my background? Here's how I would describe your background, Carmen. I would say that um, you bring light to the intelligence community. So
Well,
I think it's the opposite of the dark arts.
that's kind. And I do try. And I think Julia is a fascinating combination. Panda Julia is a fascinating combination of which is so rare. Well, maybe it's not as rare as I think it is, but I think it's rare of rigorous science skills, chops with a idealistic, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, the one's coming to mind is bubbly, but that's not the right word. But something
I mean, just like warm.
effervescent,
Yeah, enthusiastic.
warm,
Yeah,
enthusiastic
yeah.
embrace of everything that nature has to offer.
Yeah, I would call it almost a cartoon-like embrace of everything. But it's
So,
real, and
yeah,
there's rigor somewhere hidden in
yeah.
there. Yeah,
And
that's neat. Thank you.
yeah, and I don't have stuff. I don't feel like I really have another career persona that, I mean, I have the kind of quite analytic kind of persona that I have, but I'm optimistic and upbeat and for the intelligence community unconventional, which means I'm pretty conventional, but for the intelligence community, I'm unconventional.
But you have that same kind of warmth, and that's where our little Venn diagram
Mm.
overlaps. You're interested in everything, and
So,
you're
yeah.
not judgmental.
So,
Okay.
Julia, talk to us about your your two backgrounds and how they are or are not symbiotic.
Mhm.
Uh,
How do they intersect in this
how do
Venn
they
diagram?
intersect? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say that I sort of learned how they intersected when I was in grad school, which I did all online because I was actually working on the show on Hamilton in New York at the time. And I was starting to understand the scientific study of human behavior, specifically human behavior at work. I was really fascinated, and I still hear it all the time of people saying, like I have my work persona or I'm really unhappy in the work that I'm doing, but I can sort of keep that in this box and then my life and the person that I am is over here. But the reality is that we spend most of our lives working, if you count the hours. And so that work persona and that like the energy that you're putting towards that is a big part of this larger picture of who you are. And I thought that that was really fascinating, especially when it comes to artists and arts workers. So that was something where I would start reading these studies and going to conferences and talking to people who had done really rigorous in-depth research into human behavior and kept asking like where do artists fit into this, because so often it was, in my view, coming from the theater, it was a very kind of like corporate standard operational view of how people work. And I was like, Broadway is just different. It's similar in many, many ways, but I mean, for example, it's like high relatedness. We have these like really close relationships with people, and that's a given, but it's also something that when times get really tough, especially like when COVID was happening, it created this like really interesting kind of storm of we all know so much about each other, we care so much about each other, and that's actually making it much harder to do the work that we're doing. So what sort of like boundaries and protections can we put in to create a little bit more almost like rigidity, but be able to do that for people's protect.
So two quick thoughts. I've been watching Amy Poehler's, is that how
Mhm.
she's
Yeah.
Poehler's podcast, Good Hang?
Yes.
And she talked to Jennifer Lawrence a
Mhm.
few weeks ago, really. And she asked Jennifer Lawrence, what's your routine when you do a film? Because that's mostly what she does. And she goes, my first thing is I want to figure out who my friends are going to be on set. I
Yeah.
gotta
Mm,
go find my buddies. Who
Yeah.
am I going to fall in love, in love with, develop this really strong, intimate bond with that will sustain me through the show. So
Yeah.
I thought of that when you were talking about this high relatedness, which, just to finish my point, I think kind of contrasts with the way a lot of organizations want the workforce to comport itself.
Yeah.
yeah. It's based on competition and too much relatedness is a risk.
Yeah. But it is something that inherently exists in on Broadway. And it is I listened to that same episode and I was
Oh,
really,
okay.
because Jennifer Lawrence talked about her producing partner and how they've been working together since they were in their early 20s. And I'm especially interested, and I'd love to talk to you all about this. Like, I think that there's also a very feminine way of operating, that a lot of these systems came out of like a very masculine sense of competition, sense of uh,
Mail ordered.
yes, have one person who's the decision maker and have everybody else sort of fall in line. And I do think that I'm still exploring what's sort of the feminine side of that, the idea of like somebody described a director working that it's like they use pressure and heat to like massage out the knots and then eventually things start to like flow, as opposed to just like saying
Hmm.
like we're just fixing it, we're just doing this. And I think that that feminine way of working is something that I'm really interested in exploring in
Well,
theater
say
and
more, say more. So, would you say that Broadway theater in general is, were the rules set by men?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot of interesting overlap in theater that exists in other workplaces, and I think that it's very male ordered. It's a lot of men in positions of power. Um,
Well, I
and
mean, the original actors, even William Shakespeare's day, they were all men,
all
right?
men,
So
right?
that has that history.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what naturally ends up happening is that women who do gain positions of management or positions of power oftentimes do so with the thought of it's because I was able to be in the boys club or I was able
Mhm.
to change my
Yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
gain this position.
Yeah.
And I have to pass down that message that other people can't be vulnerable, can't be empathetic if they want to get to the next level.
Assimilate to the Borg or die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're
So,
not passing down that message.
so
Right.
what can we do about that? I mean, how do we what's the adjustment
And the cycle, don't pass down the message.
that and what's the adjustment that needs to be made? Because I know when I was in a pretty senior position at CIA, I confronted this thing where, I have naturally curly hair. It's important for me to get a good cut.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to say that I needed to leave work at 5 o'clock once every 6 weeks so I could make my hair appointment. I didn't want to say that out loud because I knew that that would be frowned upon.
Hmm.
But I think maybe I lied once or twice. And then the third time, eventually, for sure, I started going, I need to leave at 5 because I have to go get my hair cut.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm sorry, I'm not going to waste my precious weekend hours on this.
Hmm.
So you got to face up to it. So that's a small step to take, right? But
Yeah.
it's trivial, really, when you get right down to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, it was a lot of saying things out loud, like being able to like work things out so that it's not another, I think masculine trait is like holding things in, pushing things down, as opposed to like being able to put your sort of ideas out there and have it be if you work with a team of creative people or just a team of people, have it be a part of the exercise of figuring out what to do next, be a group exercise.
Right.
But I also think, I mean, that's where in org psych, like the science really comes in because that's not, I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of gendered issues within organizational psychology, but also it's like there is an understanding that this research is done to benefit everybody. It's not just to benefit men or women or anybody on the spectrum. And so that for me has been sort of like the neutral approach to it that I've taken. And then I'm just a woman, and so I naturally will bring like a feminine approach to it. But yeah, I think that a lot of the work that I do is in supporting women, especially who are in leadership positions, first of all, by saying, yeah, it's not fair that you were handed a system that's broken, and it's not fair that you're being asked to do so much more than somebody else in that position, and also try to like fix it. But if we can take these small steps towards making your job and your life easier, then that trickle down starts to happen, and that's the message that you start passing on to people who come after you.
And what are some of those small steps? Like
I
when
mean,
you have someone and you go and they want, what can I start doing tomorrow?
I think that, I mean, I hesitate to say it's coaching because I'm not like a certified coach, but
Right.
I am a person that people go to sort of discuss, especially when it comes to their working relationships with the people that they manage. I have been really passionate about people in management positions on Broadway because a lot of people work really hard to get to that position, and then they get there and there's hardly any support and absolutely no training in terms of, okay, now you're managing people and personalities, and that is difficult. And you might not, some people just naturally sort of slot into that position. For those who don't, especially as we're seeing more women and people of color in those positions, if I can support them as a person who you can come talk to, and then their interactions become different with the people that they manage. So it's sort of talking about like, this is how I'm dealing with this conflict. It's not working. I'm pulling my hair out, and I can tell that I'm making this other person miserable. And then we talk about it in a way that says, when you meet with them tomorrow, like, how about we take this slightly different approach? So it's not drastic like changes overnight, but it is something where I think, especially when it comes to the management of people, understanding that people want others to be successful, but you have to understand actually what creates success over time.
Yeah.
You know,
So go ahead. Go ahead, Julia.
I just this kind of work with people, it seems like you could also sell to the academic community because it's the same kind of situation, like high talent, completely trained intensely in one area, not trained at all in management. But at some point, like scientists or leaders of academic teams have to manage people and they're never trained on how to do it.
Hmm.
And the rest of their career depends on it.
Hmm.
And it's like a borderline abusive system. So there are a lot of similarities between like the entertainment world and academia that maybe I don't feels like you could be really valuable there as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think especially like the reason why it started in the arts is not only because that's where I've been trained, that's where I've found a career in, but it's also I found that creative people already sort of have the door open to that. And so you're especially like people are recognizing they're when like I feel stuck. Like I feel like I worked so hard for this position. I'm here and I like can't even imagine doing this for another like couple of months.
Yeah.
And I think with anybody who's worked hard to be in a position of a management position, like it then becomes, do I shut down and just do it? Or do I leave entirely? And I think people think about those two options, but not necessarily about like what could I get training in order to be better? And also, can people work on the system around me so that I'm not constantly like being the best person in the system, but that
Right.
the system gets better as well?
Yeah. Now you've talked, about people in management positions in the entertainment industry, and I'm not exactly sure that I understand clearly what that is. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you're the director of a play, talk about, let's say you're a director of a play,
Hmm.
of a production, and compare that to you are the manager of a performing arts center
Hmm.
Or a
in
producer of a production.
Memphis, Tennessee. So,
Yeah.
but the manager of the Performing Arts Center, that person could be there for 10 years
Hmm.
and never really does anything creative, so to speak, but manages a lot of people and
Hmm.
also has to have a discerning eye
Hmm.
for what is actually good product.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I mean, all the manager, the producing manager of a theater,
yeah.
I'll take that first, where it's
Okay.
sort of like it, everybody who finds themselves in that position, many people who find themselves in that position, have found themselves there because they're creative people.
Mm,
If not, they probably wouldn't work in the arts because there's
mm,
it's a hard career path. And so often people find themselves in those leadership positions, finally in a position where they have the choice about what shows they're going to bring to their audience. They have the choice about what directors they're going to bring in, who they've always wanted to work with. But oftentimes when people get to those positions, it's because they've sacrificed their own autonomy, relatedness, competence. They've made these sacrifices so that they get to those positions and their creativity is really quiet. And so with those people, I love sort of reintroducing the tools to get them to have a stronger relationship to their own creativity because that must have been how they sort of got into that field.
mhm.
Um, And we need a lot of creative problem solving when it comes to the arts, not only with financing, but also how do we keep introducing new things to audiences? How do we recognize when the things that we are providing to our audiences are not reaching them? And how do you pivot? Um, and then the other, like the director thing, I always think it's interesting. So in theater, if you are working on, like, for example, a big regional show and they bring in a director to work with you, you work with that director all throughout the rehearsal process. Rehearsal process, it's like you're really like in the mud, you're making decisions in the moment, and then the show opens, and it's very traditional that the director watches opening night
Right.
sometimes and then leaves.
Right.
Oh,
And
wow.
the management positions that I'm talking about are the people who stay to manage the show. And so a lot of times that's an associate director, an assistant director. That's the dance captain, the person who is maybe in the show, maybe an offstage cover, whose job it is to maintain the integrity of the choreography in the show. If you have a resident director, which we did have on tour, that's a person who's managing the company. And then there's also quite literally company managers whose jobs are like the traditional, like book the hotels, book the transportation, but it's also if you have an issue, you go to your company manager. So they're also managing all different things that happen on the road or on Broadway.
Hmm.
So smart to think of them as actually creative because they are, but their
Mhm.
day-to-day work might get frustrating because it sounds like it's a lot of management and less creativity.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think that it doesn't have to be like there's creativity in there in how you manage people. And some people like that's some people they like operating how they like to operate, but the people that I talk to are a lot of people who are like, I just can't like I can't find the energy to do this anymore. And that always for me goes, oh, I think this is about motivation, not about
Yeah.
like you're not in the right place.
Hmm.
Well, how would you like if you I know you're a fellow Julia, so I know you have a vision.
Hmm.
So what's your vision for how things could work better in the entertainment space? Let's make it small enough like the theater space and then the larger if you want, right? What would it look like if it worked better? I mean, not even necessarily idealistic in the sense of obviously human beings all have flaws and will always have flaws, but just given that, like what's your vision for that?
I mean, I think a big one that comes to mind is a better system for drawing upon the institutional knowledge of people that do the job every single day.
Hmm.
So often, the people making the decisions sit in a position where even their view of what the job is every day is really far and apart from what it actually is.
Hmm.
And I think this is true for actors, but also for stagehands, for technicians, for people working on costumes and wigs, for front of house. I think having what I hear a lot of people say is um, that I have maybe an idea about how I could make my job better, but nobody listens to me. There's no way to then take that knowledge, even just like a little bit of that knowledge, and turn it into here's how I have some sort of autonomy over what I do on a daily basis. And so I think that that would be like my main thing is that I would, and that's why I try to focus on management because I think that's where a lot of it can happen is the relationship between the employee and their manager. Whereas right now we kind of think about it the relationship between the employee and the producer, which is just at a level that is really it's really apart from us. And it's also I just took part in the negotiations that happen for our union. And it's like a really tumultuous relationship. And those negotiations happen every year, and every year the relationship breaks down a little bit more. And so that's a big cavernous divide that we need to start bridging. But in the meantime, I think how we're going to do that is focusing on employees and managers.
Hmm. Well, we only have, I think, yeah, 10 minutes left,
Oh,
but, and
wow.
I have so, well, of our appointed hour, we can always go a little long, but, I, I, I sort of wanted to go back to your own journey as a creative artist
Yeah.
and how you mentioned that was like your dream
Hmm.
from, I don't know, at some young point in your life.
Yeah.
And and you were lucky, I think you would agree. I don't know, lucky is not the right word because I'm sure you're very talented, but I have a friend who was my theater buddy for many years. Now she's 89 years old and is kind of aged out, you know. So, but she would always say, there's so much talent. Talent's not the problem, talent's not the issue.
Mhm.
So, my question to you is what met your expectations, or
Mm.
what has met your expectations as a creative artist, and what did not meet? You know, what disappointed you about being a
Mm.
creative artist?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that I I love talent and creative people. And so I think my expectations are met when I meet somebody with a great idea and I say, either let's do this together, which I do a lot of in my consulting work, helping people bring their ideas to fruition. But also just being able to see people like create things. I watch a lot of TV, I watch a lot of movies. I watch it as a fan, but then also somebody who I say, I can't wait to get into that work and play in that sandbox. And those certainly have met my expectations. I will say having a little window into it, I'm also aware of some of the best TV shows and movies came out of like really tumultuous, toxic workplaces. And so that's where I want to keep working to make sure that I work from the thesis of the best work comes out of a cohesion and being able to really like let everybody's creativity flourish, not just the a person who might be considered the genius. Um, so yeah, I think that the systems might not even disappoint me, but they just, they frustrate me. And I continue to work on them. But then I think the creativity to me feels limitless. And so that's something that we can keep drawing on.
And how hard is it? Because we know it's hard for women no matter what profession they're in.
Mm.
But how hard is it for women in the creative entertainment business? And that's certainly a topic that Amy Poehler,
Hmm.
when she has a female guest, which is like two-thirds of the time, the conversation always, almost always turns to that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what compromises did you feel you had to make? What difficult situations did you just walk away from?
Well, I mean, and also this is in context a timely question because of the recent Epstein files
Oh
dump,
my God,
which
I
I
hate,
basically this morning someone sent me yet another sort of person I know in academia who was involved in like a discussion about slave girls and stuff. And I was just like, I almost wanted to vomit. Like
I
I
know
can't read any more
it's
of it. It is such a demonstration of, a friend of mine, Polly, said to me, it's like the day you realize your conspiracy theory about the world was true.
exactly, exactly. That's exactly how I feel about it too.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that the conspiracy is in part just men wielding power over women consistently and predictably.
And
Yes,
wealthy men, like
Yeah.
it's a cabal
Yeah.
of wealthy men wielding power over women. It's just that part was never talked about, right? It was all talked about like, oh, they're wielding power over this and this. But the part about wielding power over women
Yeah.
is
Yeah. I will say,
motherfuckers,
I will, I think
Sorry.
No, no, no.
I'm just getting really angry.
I
Me too.
Yeah. And I think that I mean that really speaks to I think the when I get my female friends together who I'm really lucky that in Kentucky and Louisville I have this really strong circle of women creatives and we keep adding to it like we keep meeting other people who say you need to meet this person and work on this thing together. That one of the biggest struggles for us is do we create the whole thing on our own, or do we continue to try to knock on the door and wait to be let into these spaces that are somewhat open to us, but like there's a lot of gatekeeping. And the problem with creating it on your own is that that's really hard. There's so many structures. I mean, I now have my own business, and so I write the contracts and I have the attorneys and the accountants and like I've created this also so that I can support other people who don't have to do that, who we can just funnel it sort of through the work that I'm doing. But there are those systems already exist in these nonprofits and these arts organizations, but sometimes the access is just not there, or you're in that system and you're like, this really sucks. Like this is, I don't know how I can sustain this.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
as I said, I could talk about this forever because I'm not an artistically talented person. That for sure is true. That's not a humble nothing, but I've always loved it, and loved it when I see, and every once in a while I've seen a moment where I go, oh my God, this is spectacular. Like, just to go really old school, I saw Sweeney Todd with Angela Lansbury and Len
Oh,
Carew, the, center orchestra the second week.
oh my
And I
God.
was like, oh my God. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I just knew.
Hmm.
On the other hand, I saw Wicked the month it opened with Idina
Menzel.
Menzel and Christine Chenoweth and Joel Grey. And I wasn't that impressed. So totally surprised by how that became like incredible.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who uh, was a theater rat, and decided also to go into consulting because she's very short. I mean, like 5 feet, and it was just physically very difficult for her to do roles. She was telling me how, but she was still competing, and how she hated it when all the audition songs for women became these big songs, like
Hmm.
the one out of Wicked. What's that one called?
Defying gravity.
Defying
Mhm.
Gravity. She was going,
Mhm.
why is everybody singing that? If I hear it one more time, just anyway. So just to lead to my question, are there roles out there as you think about? I mean, I'm talking about theatrical roles, as you think about your career as it matures and goes forward, that you'd go, golly, I want to play that someday. Like when I think about
Mm.
roles,
Yeah.
I think of like Deirdre in A Little Night Music. I think
Mhm.
that's her name. The
Mhm.
mature
Mhm.
actress woman, which is a fantastic role.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, Goldie and Fiddler on the Roof, I think it was a
Oh,
role like that.
yeah, I mean, so, at some point, I think as you think about managing your career, you have to think about, okay, well, there's a point where I have to stop wanting these roles and I need to go for some other roles. And
mhm.
so are there any roles like Mame? What a great, that's
Yeah.
one of the shows I've never seen live that I
Mhm.
would love to see a good production of that show.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, some of them, like I would love, I've still never done a production of In the Heights,
Oh
which is
yeah.
Mm.
Lin-Manuel
Yeah.
Miranda's
Yeah.
first musical that came to Broadway.
I
And
saw that just last year. It was
oh,
at
did you?
Signature
Oh,
With
yeah.
you.
in
Yeah.
Virginia.
I
Yeah,
saw it
we
as
saw it
well.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, it's such a good show. And I think that that's, I mean, might feel like a little bit like a halftime, the Super Bowl halftime show. Like it's like when you get a bunch of Latinos together to do a show,
Yeah.
like it's just going to be a fun time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've seen interviews of the original cast and how important it was to them to connect to everybody's culture within the cast. There
Right.
was an actress or an actor, Karen Olivo, who talked about how that was so important for their understanding of their ethnic identity was especially when you're an actor and you're constantly asking, how can I change myself? How can I be the person that you want me to be? That for them, understanding how they just needed to be themselves and they were the perfect person for that role. So I'd love to be in the Heights. And then there's another show called Grey Gardens, which is based.
Oh, about the story of the Long Island
Yes.
crazy
Yes.
I've never heard
situation.
of this.
Oh
Wow,
my
what?
God.
Great, great, wacky show.
I've never heard of the show, but I know of the situation. Yes.
Yeah. And there was a documentary that was made
That
that.
you
What was
can
the
look,
situation?
well, a mother and a daughter once were rich. You
Mhm.
go. And
They
then,
I think they were related to Jackie Onassis.
yes.
Oh,
I think it was Jackie Onassis's cousin and mother. So it was like a young debutante and her mother who I think they both suffered from pretty severe mental illness. And when these documentarians found them, they were living in like a 10-bedroom mansion in,
Dilapidated.
yeah, dilapidated with like dozens of cats.
Wow.
But that like their story of sort of fitting within this world and then giving it up, but still having sort of a foot in that world. And the actor Christine Ebersole, who won the Tony for that show,
Yeah. Yeah.
the role in the beginning of the show, she plays her mother, and in the end of
Oh,
the show, she plays the daughter. So it's sort of like a
wow.
source of a show that I would love to do one day.
yeah.
Wow. That's
Wow.
pretty interesting. Wow. Wow. I'm very
Yeah.
excited. I have, of course, a project I want to talk with you about, but we'll
Yeah.
wait.
What a great conversation, Julia. I'm really glad your mom suggested it, and I always feel better and like enlivened when I talk about the arts.
hmm That's what
You
they're
know,
supposed to do, you
I
know?
always
Yeah.
feel like frothy, you
Mhm.
know?
Yes, frothy. Yeah, it's like that
Yeah.
that creativity is like central to your body, you know?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Did
Yeah.
they did my mom mention the podcast Wind of Change at all when she was on?
Oh,
No,
you mean
no.
Winds of Change, the one about the CIA song? And that,
Mhm.
yes.
Winds,
Jonathan Moreno told us about that. It's a
Winds of
fantastic.
Change. It's a
Yeah, it's about
podcast.
this. It's a podcast about CIA involvement in the entertainment industry.
Oh, of course.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and also, but how there's this particular song that they thought would be like really appropriate to sing, you know, where a bunch of Russians would be right before the wall
No,
fell.
I got to look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
It's a great show, but it's what I always think about the intersection of intelligence and the arts and how there's probably other things that we don't know about that I would be
Right.
fascinated to learn.
Right.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
Argo is another
Oh, I
another great
loved
one.
Argo. I always
Yeah,
tell people Argo is the CIA I know.
Mhm.
Zero Dark 30, that's just some bizarre
fantasy.
invention. Yes. Well, Julia, thank you so much.
Thank you.